Hey guys, so here's a quick training on the root causes of autoimmune, digestive and skin conditions, and of course how to reverse your symptoms naturally without the use of medications. Today we're going to be focusing on the links between leaky gut, chronic inflammation, autoimmune conditions, digestive issues, and of course skin conditions, nutrient absorption, healthy elimination, and then of course we're going to go into solutions as well. I'm really excited to explain this all to you. A little bit about myself and why I'm here explaining this to you today. At the age of 19 years old, I started getting some digestive issues. I was getting diarrhea. Went to the doctors numerous times and they just told me to go on Imodium, and they gave me antibiotics for the diarrhea as well. And then around the age of 19, I started getting food intolerances. A few of you may have some of those as well. Like a common one is gluten, and that's the first one I started off with, and then I ended up being intolerant to like broccoli, onions, and I just slowly had to keep cutting stuff out. By the age of 21 years old, I was actually diagnosed with an autoimmune condition called ulcerative colitis. I don't know if any of you know anyone with ulcerative colitis or Crohn's disease, which is very similar, which I later got diagnosed with. Basically, I was just pooing blood every single day. And the only reason why I realised it was like serious, because I spoke to somebody, I was like, why have you been off work for a month? And he said, oh, I had bowel cancer. And I was like, how did you know you had bowel cancer? It was like, oh, I was pooing blood. I was like, oh, wow. I do that every day. So I went to the doctor. I was like, look, you keep giving me antibiotics. You keep telling me to have Imodium, but I'm pooing blood. I was like, you tell me I don't have cancer. The doctor was like, oh, give me a colonoscopy, the old camera up the bum. That's where they saw ulcers in my large intestine. As I've put here, they said it's like a lifelong condition. You're like 3 to 4 times more likely to get bowel cancer. You're going to have immunosuppressants and steroids for the rest of your life. And this was my first appointment with a doctor, and I was like, well, can't I fix it naturally? And he was like, no, you need to have immunosuppressants and steroids. They told me that diet had nothing to do with it. And I was like, well, if I cut out gluten and sugar and broccoli and onions, I'm not as bad as when I do eat them. And the doctor was like, no, diet has nothing to do with it. And obviously alarm bells was ringing there, like getting told having immunosuppressants, like we know our immune system's good for us, so why would I want to suppress it? We all know steroids are amazing for our health. I've got a little picture of my mother here because what she said really did change my life. And as you can see behind me, she said, James, you wasn't born with it, so you can reverse it. Yeah, when she said that, that's the point where I changed my life. I went from victim mode of like, oh no, I've got this for the rest of my life, to I went straight on Google, I searched how to heal ulcerative colitis naturally, and that's what got me on this mission. A little bit more about it. So from the age of 21 to 25 is when I suffered with ulcerative colitis and Crohn's disease. I was in hospital, and that was when they wanted to cut all my large intestine and my small intestine out. And fortunately, it was Christmas Eve, so they let me go home for Christmas, and then I just didn't go back. I actually went onto a raw milk diet for a year and a half, and then I tried all these different therapies. I used to spend like 11.5 grand every year just on probiotics trying to fix myself, because as you probably all tried them and heard that you put good bacteria in, kills off the bad bacteria, and then you'll be absolutely fine. I'm sure the same reason why you're here now learning, and the same reason why they didn't work for me, even though I spent a lot of money on them. It takes more than just putting good bacteria in the intestines. I was doing colonic hydrotherapy, I did healing herb enemas, I did probiotic enemas, I was doing EFT tapping twice a day, Louise Hay, Heal Your Life, every different therapy I could find, trying every different diet and supplement. And I'm sure you guys have been on the same journey. Here's a little picture of me on my birthday after being on the raw milk diet for a year and a half. That really did help stop the bleeding and stuff, but just because I wasn't putting solid food through, I then went on a low fibre diet. So I was just having white pasta that I imported from Italy because it's the ancient form of wheat. And then with that, the same flour that I imported from Italy, my mum would make me white bread. And that's me on my birthday. That is my birthday cake. That was about as exciting as my diet got. I had white bread with some butter on it. As you see, I wasn't very well. Here's the trip to Australia. Fortunately, that trip to Australia changed my life. A little bit more about that. Like when I went to Australia, that's where I found the answers. And I'll talk about that soon. Obviously, I found the product called Qenda Ultimate Fibre, gave me my life back. I've been helping people for the last 7 years now, helping people reverse their chronic autoimmune, digestive issues and skin conditions for that last 7 years. So anything you've got going on, especially if the doctors say it's incurable, I truly believe, just like my mum said, if you wasn't born with it, you can reverse it. So let's get into it. All too many people now are suffering from leaky gut. You may have heard of that. We will be going into it. But if you're suffering from like bloating, that is a sure sign of either a food intolerance or the fact that you've got infections and overgrowths in your intestines. Because what's happening, you're eating carbohydrates or foods that you're intolerant to, they're going down there, they're fermenting with the infections and giving off a gas. And that's what creates the bloating. And then obviously if you've got an intolerance to that food, it creates inflammation in your body and it can actually make you swell up as well. Abdominal cramps, that's obviously inflammation showing anywhere on your digestive system. Your digestive system is, or like just your intestines, for example, is 30 foot long. You've got like your small intestine, which is like 27 foot long, and then you've got like your large intestine that comes around, that can be around 3 foot long. Yeah, you've got 30 foot of intestines and digestive system. Obviously that takes up all of your abdomen. So if you're getting abdominal cramps, that shows that you've got inflammation in your intestines combined with a bit of trapped wind or food that's passing through and irritating it. Constipation and diarrhea, you might actually swap between the two, or you might be someone that's like constipated a lot of the time, or you might be like me, having 25 to 30 bowel movements a day. They actually have the same root causes. If you have an infection and overgrowth inside your small intestine, it can slow the intestines down and actually create constipation, because if you think about it, if you've got living organisms inside there, they're not going to want it to flow very fast. They'd rather it's nice, warm and moist in there, and when it's not flowing, they're happy. And then with diarrhea, it's the same thing. You've got infections and overgrowths in your body, but then what's happening, your body's actually trying to flush out those infections. And that is why people can go from constipation to diarrhea and switch between the two. Just like when you get diarrhea when you have a stomach bug, your body's trying to flush out that stomach bug. When you have infections and overgrowths in your intestines that are in there, that's your body trying to flush them out. Or if you have too much toxins in there, your body's going to try flush it out with diarrhea. And what is really interesting, obviously I had ulcerative colitis, and a lot of people, you may have seen from your research, if you suffer from diarrhea, you get told that it's the large intestine that absorbs the water from the stool. So you think the problem's in the large intestine, but as you're going to learn, the problem is actually further upstream, because the large intestine is the last part of your digestive system. The actual problems start in the small intestine, which is that 27 foot long bit that's all squiggly in the middle that comes after your stomach. That is actually supposed to be a more sterile environment, and when it's not sterile, that's when we have the issues. It's the large intestine that's supposed to have the bacteria in. Hemorrhoids and fissures, you're probably well aware of that. Fissures happen when you have too much toxins in the body. The body actually makes a little tunnel out to try and get the toxins out, because obviously I normally see it in people that are constipated and they've got that lack of flow in the body, or people that are having too many medications. Hemorrhoids can just be when you're pushing on the toilet, and or straining, and or if you're just having so much bowel movements, it can actually create a lot of irritation as well. Bladder and kidney infections, yeah, they're all too common. I've put anxiety, depression on there. You may know, and you may have seen some from some of my videos. The reason why we get anxiety and depression is actually because we have poor gut health. Our gut health directly relates to our mental health. An example of that is, I always used to think people was talking about me behind my back. I used to think people was only being friendly to my face when I had ulcerative colitis and Crohn's disease. And it wasn't until 5 weeks into a cleanse that is when I was like, oh wow, I no longer have these thoughts. I no longer think that people have just been nice to my face. That's when I realised, like, even all the EFT tapping and stuff like that I was doing, and all the forgiveness exercises and positive affirmations, no matter how much you do of that, you need to fix your body to be able to fix your mind. Whereas you may have seen a lot of people always say, oh, fix your mind and your body will follow. Well, if you've got infections, overgrowths like parasites, fungal infections, bacterial overgrowths inside your body, changing your mindset's not going to fix that. And that's what I learned. So, yeah, let's get into it a bit more. Yeah, a lot of you may have food allergies or food sensitivities, and I'll explain where they come from soon. I've put toe and fingernail fungus on here because whenever I've done a video on toenail fungus, it's got a lot of views. And then also, I'd say about 60 to 75% of people that I speak to actually have a fungal infection creating their issues as well, or contributing to their issues. If you're getting body aches and pains, I'll explain a little bit more about that in a minute. Obviously, I said I help people with autoimmune, digestive and skin conditions, and I truly believe they all have the same root causes. Obviously, we all have 4 elimination pathways. We have our breath, our sweat, our urine and our feces. And if stuff's not coming out in the toilet, it's going to have to either come out in your breath or on your skin. And that's why people can have like bad body odour, and that's why people can have toxins or inflammation showing on the skin. And we'll get a little bit more into that. Candida and thrush infections, we'll go into that a little bit more, and we've already covered these last few. And we'll also go into fatigue. So yeah, if you're feeling low energy all the time, low mood, low energy, it's directly related to your gut health. I really like this representation of autoimmune conditions, because depending on where you look on the internet, some people can even say that there's like 3,500 different autoimmune conditions. And I'm going to tell you right now that I don't know all of those autoimmune conditions. I treat people based on the symptoms, because a symptom is a message from your body. Anything that is out of balance in your body's going to tell you, whether it is stomach cramps or low mood, achy joints, food sensitivities. That's your body giving you messages. And when I say about these autoimmune conditions, what I call them is just labels, because as you know, if you have some symptoms, you go to the doctors label your symptoms and they say, here you are, you have Crohn's disease, or you have fibromyalgia, and that's your label that you get given, and then you're happy that you've been given the label, and then the doctor says you've got it for life, there's nothing you can do to fix it. Then you're just left like, oh, well, that's my identity. That's why there's no need for me to know every single one of these autoimmune conditions, and that's exactly why I help people based on the symptoms, because I think these labels make it wildly confusing, and they make people think that they have a very rare autoimmune condition, but it's actually just symptoms showing in different areas of the body. Obviously, Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis, that's more showing in the digestive system. Lupus is digestive system and like inflammation everywhere else. Arthritis is just inflammation showing in different areas of the body. Fibromyalgia, exactly the same, inflammation showing in different areas of the body, and pain showing in different areas. So basically, all this stuff is just labels for inflammation being in different areas of your body. And I'll explain why you get inflammation in different areas of your body now. So as you can see here, this is a representation of your intestines. A few of you may have already heard of leaky gut, and I think this, or I truly believe this explains why so many people have autoimmune and digestive issues. As you see here on the left, this is a representation of healthy intestines. I'm going to move myself up here. This is a representation of healthy intestinal lining. I'll start again. If you see here, this is the middle of the intestines. If you think about it, your intestinal lining is just a tube. You have your food and your feces in the middle. You have your intestinal lining on the outside, and then on the outside of your intestinal lining, you have your blood. And that's what's represented here. On the inside, you have the food and the feces and other potential toxins. Here is the intestinal lining, and then here is the blood on the other side. So, like I said, on the left-hand side here, this is a representation of a healthy intestinal lining. As you can see, all the junctions of the cells are all tight together. And also, as you can see here, the intestinal lining is only one cell thick. That means that one cell is only half the width of a human hair. And obviously that one cell has a massive job to do. Its job is to only let through digested foods and to keep out the waste, the toxins, the feces, and undigested food particles from the blood. Obviously, your body, you only want digested food particles passing into the blood so it can go along to the liver and give you nutrients. So this is represented here with healthy intestinal lining. And then on the right-hand side, you can see that this is a representation of an inflamed intestinal lining. And the reason why you get an inflamed intestinal lining is, one, because there can be infections or overgrowths inside the intestine. These can be parasites, fungal infections, bacterial overgrowths, and or viral infection. It doesn't mean you only have one of them. Normally what I see is when one person has one infection and they've had it for a while, their immune system's compromised, then they do have other infections, and we will go into that. But just for now, if there's infections, overgrowths, or too much toxicities in the body, it can become leaky and inflamed. Obviously, toxins can come from diet, and we'll talk about that as well. But basically, the intestinal lining makes inflammation to try and move these infections along and to try and deal with the toxicities. But the problem with that is when you have these gaps in between the intestinal cells, as you can see by this picture, undigested food particles can pass through into the blood, and other waste and toxins can also pass through into the blood. And that is not a good sign. Once these undigested food particles, other waste and toxins pass through into the blood, the immune system perceives them as an intruder. So what it does is it creates inflammation inside the blood to protect the body from this unknown intruder. The reason why I put gluten on there is obviously it's the most common food intolerance that people have. And the reason why it's the most common food intolerance is because it's the most common food that people eat. Like if you've ever got a friend that's gluten intolerant, or you've had to cut out gluten yourself, you'll know that it's very easy to have gluten in every single meal. Say have eggs on toast in the morning, or like Weetabix in the morning, have like a beef sandwich for your lunch, and then have like steak and ale pie for your evening meal, or Yorkshire puddings for your evening meal, with other stuff of course. So then you're putting in like wheat and gluten 3 times a day. So that means you've got wheat and gluten in your intestines basically all day. So the wheat and the gluten is going to be passing through the intestinal lining most commonly and getting into the blood. What happens then is the immune system creates antibodies to that food. The same way that you get taught in science at school that if a virus enters the body, your body makes antibodies to that virus. So then if you ever get that virus again, it'll know how to deal with it and deal with it quickly. The problem is when you've got gluten or any other undigested food particles passing through into the blood, your immune system perceives them as an intruder, thinks it's a virus, and makes antibodies to that food. That's why when you do a food intolerance test, it tests for antibodies. So the foods that you commonly eat are the foods that you end up intolerant to. You may have found that you do a food intolerance test, or you just do a food diary and realise that you're intolerant to one food. So then you cut it out and you feel better for a while, and then you end up intolerant to the foods that you've replaced it with. And that's just because of this leaky gut, which is evidenced here. So that's why you get food intolerances. And obviously, when you've got inflamed intestines, that can obviously create diarrhea, constipation, and it can create this whole immune response. So then every time you're eating foods, you end up intolerant to the foods that you're eating, so you end up reacting to the foods that you're eating. And a lot of people that I've helped that have been my clients, they end up fasting just because they feel like food's bad for them. It's not food that's the issue, it's the inflammation in the intestinal lining that's the problem. And when we fix the inflamed intestinal lining and get them back to tight junctions and healthy, that's when we can get you better again. I've put on here autoimmunity. The reason why I've put that, and like the reason why leaky gut explains autoimmune conditions, is, like I said, once you get undigested food particles, other waste and toxins passing into blood, the immune system perceives them as an intruder, and then it creates antibodies and inflammation inside the blood to protect the body from the unknown intruder. So then the doctors aren't aware of this term leaky gut, and they're not aware of inflamed intestines creating this issue, depending on what part of the world you're from, because in America it is actually recognised, but over here in the UK and Europe they don't recognise leaky gut. And if they did, it'd explain a lot of issues. So basically, once you get these undigested food particles passing into the blood, other waste and toxins in the blood, it creates inflammation in the blood, and your blood gets all the way around your body in 3 seconds. So you can have inflammation showing in all different areas of your body because your blood gets around your body in 3 seconds. An example of why you can get systemic inflammation or inflammation, like a common one, is women get inflammation in the thyroid, and this is the same process. Like if you've got Hashimoto's, thyroiditis, hypothyroidism, hypothyroidism, or any inflammation showing anywhere in the body, it's because these undigested food particles are passing into the blood, waste and toxins are passing into the blood, and creating this inflammatory response in the blood. And these undigested food particles and other waste and toxins actually settle on either joints or organs, and what happens is the immune system then brings out something called T killer cells, and what they do, they just drop a bomb in the area. So they don't just attack the undigested food particles and other toxins that's got into the joint or the tissue, they also attack the surrounding tissue. And that's exactly why you have inflammation shown in different areas of your body. And this obviously relates to skin issues as well. If you've got inflammation in your blood and toxins flowing around in your blood, and they're obviously not going out in the toilet because they're stuck in your blood, they're going to have to show as inflammation on the skin, and the toxins are going to have to come out in the skin because it's an elimination pathway, like I said earlier. Anything you have happening on your skin is a window of what's going on the inside. So that explains leaky gut. And if you have any other questions, feel free to ask them in the Ultimate Fibre Forum, and I'll answer them on the weekly call. So hopefully you can see now, this is why people have autoimmune conditions, digestive issues, food intolerances, and inflammation showing all over the body. So there's just a few examples of what's actually causing these issues. Obviously, like I've already mentioned, poor elimination. Bad diet is obviously a big one. I've put on here like lots of yellow and white foods, just there's lots of gluten in there, fried foods. There's a lot going on, but obviously for the purpose of this call, we'll focus on the fungal infections, bacterial overgrowths, parasites, and what you find is when you actually get those out of the body, you'll be able to make better, healthier decisions around your diet, because fungal infections, bacterial overgrowths, parasites, these actually give you food cravings. They make you crave sugars and carbs and all the foods that's bad for you, because that's what feeds them the most. So when we get rid of those or get you started on a cleanse, you'll find that you're no longer craving the crap food. Here's an example of some parasites. This one here is a roundworm. I know they do look a little bit shocking, but this is what a lot of people actually have going on in their bodies. And once again, this is something that gets totally missed by the health system and by the doctors, because a lot of their tests that they do, they just test the stool. But obviously the definition of a parasite is something that lives and thrives off the host to the host's detriment. By definition, they're not going to just come out in your stool. The only way they are going to come out in your stool is if you cleanse them out of your body with strong antiparasitic herbs, antifungal herbs, etc. Here's a very common parasite. It's called the intestinal fluke. My mum actually had this, and this was creating a constipation and psoriasis. They can lay up to 250,000 eggs a day, 7 weeks to mature, can live for a year, and can grow up to 7.5 centimetres long and 2.5 centimetres wide. So they can be quite big. This is Ascaris. 1/6 of the human population have been reported to have this Ascaris. It's a very common parasite that I see come out of people with autoimmune, digestive, skin conditions. And as you can see here, they can lay 200,000 eggs a day, can live for a year, and can grow up to 35 centimetres long. So as you can imagine, they're not good things to have in your body. So yeah, we're away from the pictures of parasites now. It's okay. Calm down. But parasites can cause that leaky gut. They can cause fatigue, brain fog, mood changes and anxiety. Just like I said, it wasn't until I started cleansing out the parasites in my body, it was 5 weeks into a cleanse, when I realised, oh, I no longer have these negative thoughts. It wasn't my brain, it wasn't my body giving me these thoughts or my brain, it was actually the parasites. They can really influence your mood. They can stop you absorbing nutrients from the food. I was as low as 53 kilograms, which is insane because I'm like 67 kilograms now. Yeah, aching muscles and joints, lowers your immune function. If people have a candida infection or a fungal infection, it sort of goes hand in hand with the fact that they've got parasites. People that suffer from candida infections that they can't get rid of, when they've done a cleanse with me, finally got rid of the parasites, they no longer have the candida infection. And people always have a candida infection if they've either got a fungal infection or a parasite infection. Rectal itching's a common sign. Obviously, IBD is a common sign. Teeth grinding, that is skin irritations and iron deficiency. Like parasites can eat your iron and eat your B12. So if you have low iron or low B12, it's very likely that you've got parasites in your body. There's also bacterial overgrowths that can eat your iron and eat your B12. This is an interesting one. Exposure from parasites can come from the air you breathe, the food you eat, and the water that you drink or bathe in. You can get parasites from unwashed fruit and vegetables, uncooked meat or fish. You can get parasites from having dogs or pets in your home. Obviously, they're going outside, they're rolling in poo, and then you're stroking them and stuff, and then you don't think anything of going on your phone. So hand hygiene is a very important one. And then walking barefoot outside as well, which is pretty crazy. But then, the water that you drink, obviously the manufacturer Qenda is actually made, the Qenda is made in Australia. And he says, depending on what part of Australia people are in, you can pretty much tell what parasites they're going to have, obviously from the water sources, which is pretty crazy. The common ones are Ascaris, roundworm, tapeworm. If you see that coming out, it normally comes out like little segments, like little bits of seaweed coming out. And people are reported seeing like seed-like things coming out and all sorts of shapes and sizes. But the less they're living in your body, eating the nutrients from you, because what parasites do, they eat the nutrients from your food and they dump their waste into your body. And they can dump stuff like isopropyl alcohol, lactic acid, phenol, formaldehyde into your body, so it can make your body very acidic. Yeah, it's best having them out. Parasites thrive in an unhealthy gut. Like if you're having less than 2 to 3 bowel movements a day, like I said, they love it. It's warm and moist in there. They like it where it's not flowing. They can just reproduce. And if you're not having enough clean water, obviously water hydrates the body, helps flush and clean the body. It can make a big difference. A diet low in fibre is a big factor. In organic food, like glyphosate and chemicals goes hand in hand with inorganic food, or like skincare products. Any plastics, glyphosates, metals that get in the body, the parasites thrive on those things. Obviously, they're not healthy for the body in the first place. Yeah, parasites, they love nasties in your body because they feed on it. Horrible things. And obviously a toxic liver. Yeah, every day you're exposed to so many chemicals, and this is the stuff that they actually thrive on. And like I was saying, like if you're drinking tap water now, I challenge you to do the 1 week challenge. Either go on bottled water or filtered water for a week, and then try go back to tap water. I got a feeling, you won't be able to do it. You'll smell the chlorine in it. And tap water is known to have, in a lot of places in the UK, it's got fluoride added to it. It's got medications in it because it's just recycled toilet water. As they teach you in school, your tap water has normally gone through and been recycled like through the sewage system 7 times. So it's got undigested food part. No, it's got feces in there. It's got hormones in there. It's got people's medications in there. So if you're getting a water filter, you want to make sure it's got heavy metals in there. If you've got an old house, you've very likely got lead pipes leading to your house. And the same way you wouldn't drink from a lead cup is the same reason why, you wouldn't want to drink from lead pipes. And then obviously beauty and skincare products, you've probably seen the studies. Women, like when they're wearing makeup and like deodorant and sprays and stuff like that, they can actually put hundreds of chemicals on their skin every single day. And what I say to people is, if you wouldn't put it on your skin, if you wouldn't put it in your mouth, don't put it on your skin. Because anything that you put on your skin absorbs directly into your blood, goes straight into your body. If it's got more than 5 ingredients and any of the ingredients in there are stuff that you can't pronounce or you don't recognise, it's most likely not very good for you. So if you're having 3 meals a day, ideally you want to be having around 3 bowel movements a day, 1 for each meal. So, I'm aware we've gone a little bit over half an hour now. How do we fix these issues? We obviously need to cleanse the intestines, that's the big one, because it opens up all the other windows. Because once you cleanse the intestines and get rid of the infections and overgrowths out the intestines, then you can naturally make better decisions with your diet for two reasons. One, because infections and overgrowths actually give you sugar and carb cravings, and two, you might be in a position where you cannot actually eat a nutritious diet. Like myself, before I got started on the Qenda Ultimate Fibre, I was just having white bread and white pasta and blending it up and having it 3 times a day with kefir, because I'd have to have blended up low fibre food because I couldn't handle any fibre. But when I started on the Qenda Ultimate Fibre, because it's got antiparasitics, antifungals, antimicrobials, it was getting rid of the infection, but then because it's got like anti-inflammatory herbs, it was actually reducing the inflammation in my body so I could handle that fibre. Whereas if I had any fruit or vegetables before that, it used to feel like someone was scratching my intestines and I used to get so sore. So I understand if you're actually, if you are scared of fibre, so was I. I've done a video on it on YouTube, but this actually reduces inflammation in the body at the same time as healing the damaged intestinal lining, because it has slippery elm, marshmallow root and licorice root in there. As I've put here, like fermented foods and probiotics and enzymes are amazing and you might be on those, but what I've found is we actually need to cleanse the intestines first for a month and then introduce the probiotics, the enzymes, the fermented foods. Otherwise we're just adding bacteria to other potential bacteria and bad stuff, if that makes sense. And obviously good quality water, we've already spoke about that. So yeah, here's what you're all here for, and this is the basic cleanse that I get everybody on. It's called Qenda Ultimate Fibre. It's all certified organic ingredients. It's been third-party tested to ensure there's no mould, pesticide residues, plastics, any nasties that can actually get in these supplements. Yeah, this is what gave me my life back, and this is what I've been helping people with for the last 7 years now. And as you may see from comments in the Ultimate Fibre forum, yeah, it's amazing for getting rid of parasites, fungal infections. It helps people resolve the food allergies, because it's got chlorella in there. It helps take out heavy metals, and it deals with the leaky gut because it gets rid of the infections that's creating the leaky gut. It's got the slippery elm, the marshmallow root, the licorice root in there to heal and seal the damaged intestinal lining. And then what I also like about it is it's got like bitter herbs in there to cleanse the liver, the kidneys, the gallbladder. So it really is resetting all of your body and getting it back into balance. When you get started on this, you'll feel the inflammation will reduce in your body. It's very likely that you'll get more mental clarity, increased energy, less sugar cravings. You'll be able to start sleeping better. It really is magic powder. This is the protocol basically. I recommend 7 tubs over a 4-month period. What I love about it is you just have it on an empty stomach in the morning before your breakfast, so you don't really have to change anything in your routine. If you're fasting and you're skipping breakfast, it's less than 50 calories, so it doesn't break a fast. And then from week 2 to week 9, you start having it before your evening meal as well. The benefit of having it twice a day is, as you saw on the slide about parasites, they can lay their eggs and they can lay dormant in the intestines for 6 to 8 weeks. So that's why we go on the 2 scoops twice a day for 6 to 8 weeks to make sure we totally get rid of them parasites. And yeah, it doesn't taste nice at first. It definitely tastes like it works. The reason for that is when bitter herbs taste more bitter, that means you have more toxins in your body. Because same reason these infections and overgrowths give you sugar cravings is the same reason why these infections and overgrowths don't want you having bitter herbs that's going to actually kill them off. So they make it taste worse. Yeah, if you're going to have, if flavour is going to be an issue, I recommend either the Wildberry or the chocolate flavour. The Wildberry is sweetest, and it's $623 for the full 4 months course. If you just wanted to get started with 1 tub, which is 25 servings, it's £99. And it comes with all the instructions. It's got an A4 information sheet, and we have customer support staff to ensure that you know exactly what's going on in your body and doing everything properly to guide you through the process. And I obviously do weekly lives on this group as well. And if you want any more information or you want to talk to me about your condition, directly on a private consultation. I do a paid one-to-one consultation, which is available on Zoom. That's $249. I'll put the links at the top of this video, and you can always email me, and if you want to buy the product, I'll put the links for this video as well. Yeah, really excited to help you out, and like I said, this is the basic protocol I get everybody on. This is enough to get rid of the infections and overgrowths, heal the damaged intestinal lining, cleanse liver, kidneys, gallbladder. It really does make you feel fantastic. Yeah, I finally found the answers, and I'm really excited for you to get started on it as well. Yeah, thank you for your time, and excited to help you out.